A memorial service for George Floyd, whose death horrified viewers around the world, whose death inspired marches. Some resulted in widespread destruction. A friend of Floyd, Maurice Lester Hall, who reportedly was in the car with him last Monday, says Floyd never resisted, even tried to defuse the situation after police engaged him for allegedly passing a counterfeit bill. That engagement ending with Floyd's widely witnessed death.
Fox's Mike Tobin. Chicago police are investigating an incident all too eerily like the arrest of George Floyd. A black woman says a group of officers pulled her from her car Sunday, threw her to the ground, and put a knee on her neck. A bystander caught the violent confrontation on video. Mia Wright says she and her family have no idea why they were targeted. Police charged Wright with disorderly conduct and seized her cousin's car. Police also caught on video yesterday in Buffalo, New York, pushing an elderly protester to the ground. The man is in serious condition. The two cops are suspended. Protesters in a rural Indiana city say they encountered bystanders holding rifles during a demonstration Monday in Crown Point. The police chief points out that's legal in Indiana. But police point out they are in danger, too.
NYPD's commissioner tweeted out a picture of plastic boxes on a street corner filled with cement bricks, writing, "This is what our cops are up against. Organized looters strategically placing bricks and rocks at locations throughout the city."
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. America's listening to Fox News.
This is the moment when America comes together.
And Fox News Channel is with you every step of the way.
There are so many uplifting stories, people helping each other.
America's best shine brightest when needed the most.
The spirit of generosity has been enormous.
We took an oath to be here for the public, so we're not going anywhere.
We are resilient. Thanks to her citizens, the America we know will come out of this stronger than ever before.
America Together, on air and online. Only Fox News Channel. From the Fox News Podcasts Network. Download, listen, and be inspired with Lauren Green's Lighthouse Faith.
Dr. Mark Hitchcock is a biblical scholar and an associate professor at Dallas Theological Seminary. He's written some 30 books on end times prophecies. What is your take on the coronavirus?
I think the coronavirus today is a frightening foreshadow of what's coming. And it's showing us how quickly something like this, an invisible enemy, can really go around the globe.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
Murphy's Builder Supply is where you need to go for all your home improvement projects and hardware needs. They've been serving folks in this area since 1946. Murphy's offers some products and services that you may not know about. They now sell ammunition, both bullets and shells. Murphy's also sells personalized tags for dog collars. They build customized screens for windows and doors. Murphy's can rekey locks, and of course they can make keys. They cut glass for windows, plus Murphy's has monthly door buster specials. Check their Facebook page to see what's on sale. Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup.
Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings restaurant in Jessup is now open for business, practicing social distancing, but still serving that great food that Damon's is famous for. Come inside or come through the drive-thru, but Damon's is open inside and welcomes back its customers. The menu's the same, the service is fast, and the food is fantastic, and the sauces remain the same, mild, wild, insane, or inferno. The number is the same, 588-WING, 588-9464. Damon's Restaurant on West Cherry Street in Jessup. Dining room now open for business. Come on in and enjoy a great meal today.
8:02 here at the Big Dog, WIFO-FM, time for the world-famous Butch and Bob Show. Brought to you this morning by Murphy Builder Supply, Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings, and our new sponsor, First Southern Bank. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Jonathan. We've got a special guest in the studios with us. Our incumbent Congressman Buddy Carter's with us. Buddy, always good to see you. Appreciate you being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Again, you always say when you're running, there's two ways. What do you say? You're running scared or running?
Yeah, there's only two ways to run, unopposed and scared.
There you go.
So we're running scared.
Well, you got two candidates on the Republican ballot against you. We had one of your opponents on the air with us on Wednesday. He's been on several times. Danny Mary's really going after you. You know, I didn't know you were worth $500 million. So.
I didn't either, and I've had a tough time explaining to my wife that I'm not.
Also, I don't know what poll he's looking at. He said he's only 1 percentage point behind you. You see any polls? I hadn't seen any polls.
Well, we've done some internal polls, and, you know, we feel good about where we're at, but it'll all be over next Tuesday night, so we'll see what happens then.
Well, again, you've been out on the campaign trail. Luckily, the state of Georgia's opened up some of the restrictions, so I've talked to candidates running for sheriff. It's become a lot easier to go out and see people and meet people. At the time, the election began with the coronavirus, it was kind of hard with everybody social distancing for a kid to get out. Like I said, when you think about campaigns, you think about shaking hands and kissing babies, but with the coronavirus, all that's been put on hold. So I'm just curious how the campaign trail's been for you and what's on the people's minds.
Well, it's been good. We've been out and about, with the pandemic going on and being the incumbent congressman. It's important for me to be out and to make sure that we're encouraging people as well as helping people. And certainly there have been a lot of needs in our district throughout this last couple of months. And we've been very happy and very proud and to be able to help people. It is a different scenario from what it normally is, not being able to get out as much on the campaign trail. But at the same time, I think we've done an excellent job here in the 1st Congressional District. I think it's interesting to note that if you look at how we have responded here in the 1st Congressional District, there are 18 health districts in the state of Georgia, and the Coastal Health District is the 8th largest. Yet we've had the 2nd lowest number of cases of COVID-19 in the state. So I think that speaks well. And I actually asked the public health director here, Dr. Lawton Davis, a good friend of mine in my Sunday school class. I asked him, why is that? Well, it's probably a combination of things. First of all, luck, and we'll take luck. But secondly, just the outstanding job that our healthcare professionals have done. And, from Memorial Hospital in Savannah, St. Joe's Candler, Wayne Memorial here, all of our hospitals here in the 1st Congressional District, all of our healthcare centers have just done an excellent job of preparing, of making sure that they're educating the public as to what we should be doing. So I'm very proud that we have flattened that curve here.
Wayne County stands at 22 cases. I talk to local people. I'm like you, puzzled why we're just lucky, fortunate. But as they tell me, Wayne County got out ahead of this early, came out and told everybody that they need to social distance, wash their hands, make sure they don't go to large gatherings. The governor in the state, opened it up a little bit earlier than what people thought he should do, but so far he's proven to be on the spot. I mean, when you think about it, Memorial Day was just a couple weeks ago, and all these people flocked everywhere, and everybody was concerned there was going to be a big outbreak, but so far we haven't seen that. So, and now, like Jonathan and I were talking about it on the show a couple of days ago, every time you turn on TV and listen to one of these medical experts, they change everything they said from the early going. Now they're telling you need to get outside, that the chance of it spreading outside are less than 1%, and that the virus doesn't like heat. The hotter it gets, the better it's going to be. So it's good to see people out and about. More and more people are going to restaurants. The restaurants, now the bars have been opened up. So what your thoughts, first of all, like I said, you're in Washington, but you're a congressman from the state of Georgia. How do you rate the governor's response to all this?
Well, I think the governor has done an excellent job, and I applaud him for the decisions he's made, and he's made them in conjunction with his consultants, with Dr. Toomey and those who have shown him the figures and backed it up with statistics, and you make an educated decision that way. I think that the thing about rolling out our economy, a couple of things. First of all, the safer we roll out the economy, the sooner we'll roll out the economy. And it's really going to be incumbent upon a couple of things. First of all, technology. We need robust testing. We need to be able to do that. That's going to help us. Secondly, and most importantly, personal responsibility, making sure that we are following the guidelines, we as individuals are following the guidelines of the Coronavirus Task Force. That is washing our hands, making sure that we're social distancing where possible, making sure that we're coughing into our arms, wearing masks if we're showing symptoms. All of those things are incumbent upon us and personal responsibility. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, be considerate of others and do it for them as well. But I really think that in the state of Georgia, we've done a good job. Yes, we've had some hot spots. We had the problems in Albany, and that can be kind of traced back to some of the things that happened early on that really could not have been prevented, or they didn't know. Had they known then, of course they could have prevented it, but they didn't know. And, of course, Atlanta's always a difficult situation because of the mass of people who are there.
I want to get to the protests soon, but first I want to ask you about this land purchase everybody's making a big issue of. I've seen articles in the paper, Savannah Morning News. Explain what's going on there.
Well, first of all, I did buy property down in Camden County, and unfortunately the article that came out in the Savannah Morning News turned out to be just a hit piece, and to the point to where the paper actually produced and published a clarification after the article came out. Not only that, but the author of the article actually added to it to make clear that it was initially it wasn't clear, but she added to it to make clear that I've been supporting the Spaceport project ever since I was a candidate for Congress, and I continue to support that. Economic development, making sure that we have jobs for our citizens here in the first Congressional District is extremely important. That's why I've supported the Georgia ports. That's why I support the Spaceport. I support creating jobs here in the 1st Congressional District, and that's what I should be doing. Now, I did buy property down in Camden County. I'm proud to have that property. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I have 3 sons. They have families. I have grandchildren. This is an opportunity for my wife and I and my family to enjoy the coast of Georgia, and that's exactly what we bought it for.
I understand you said in the article that you bought it basically for hunting and fishing purposes.
Absolutely.
You don't plan to develop.
No, and really it's just woods. I will tell you that. There's nothing on it at all. And it's one of the few remaining maritime forests on the coast of Georgia. It's never been developed, and it's just a beautiful piece of property. And my wife and I go down there ever so often, and we really enjoy it. It's very peaceful.
If you're just joining us, 1st District Congressman Buddy Carter in the studios with us. Again, he'll be on the ballot when you go to early vote today or on Tuesday's primary. He and 2 other gentlemen on the Republican ballot, 3 candidates on the Democratic side. So this race goes all the way to November. For months, all you could see on TV was COVID-19, how many people died. All of a sudden, that's gone away now. As far as news media coverage, it's all about the protest, all about the incident at Minneapolis, tragic sight there. Anybody who's seen the video, like I said, no one can approve what took place there. But unfortunately, as we say all the time, no one denies people's right to protest, but when you start vandalizing property and setting police vehicles on fire, those are crimes that need to be addressed. Now, the president's used the National Guard. Governor Kemp's used the National Guard. There's been a lot of controversy on whether they should be used at all. Just want to get your thoughts on how all this is being handled, both statewide and nationally.
Well, obviously, as you point out, what happened to George Floyd up in Minneapolis is despicable. It cannot be tolerated in our society. We should not tolerate it. People should be protesting. They have the right to protest. But that does not mean that we should have burning, destruction, and the violence that we've seen. And I think a lot of that has come, I know, and we all know that a lot of that has come from outside influences. And that's what's got to be stopped. And that's what has upset the president so much. The president has been very authoritative about this, as he should be, as we expect him to be. We are a nation of law and order. He's instructed the FBI as well as the DOJ to expedite the investigation of this. The president is just as offended by this as anyone, and he wants to see this. He wants to see justice done. He wants to see it brought to fruition. But at the same time, we've got to keep in mind that, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I'm very proud of the way that we have responded here in the 1st Congressional District. There was a protest Sunday in Savannah, a very peaceful protest, a very productive protest. Just yesterday, I was in Liberty County in Hinesville, there at a protest there. Very peaceful, very productive, and that's what we should be doing. The key here is to get involved and change the system. That's the way you do it. You don't do it through violence. You don't do it through looting. You don't do it. That's not the way. Dr. King would be offended by this. This disrespects the memory of George Floyd. If you look at the situation that we've experienced here in the 1st Congressional District down in Brunswick with Ahmaud Arbery, again, this is a young man whose life ended too soon. And we cannot accept this, and justice has to be done. I'm very proud of the fact that we've had peaceful protests down there, and it has been productive. Now we're seeing justice in the works. We're seeing it happen. And that's the kind of results that you get when you have peaceful protests. But this destruction, burning, looting, that has no place at all in our country.
The president keeps talking about this outside influence. How do you identify those people and put those people behind bars? And where do these people come from? It seems like you mentioned, it's an organized group, and they're just there basically to cause destruction and chaos.
Well, it is, and we have, through intelligence, we have been able to identify some of these groups, and it's very loosely organized. When you talk about Antifa and you talk about, that certain group, it is very loosely organized, but at the same time, through intelligence, we can see, we've had examples of where you've had shipments of bricks and fire starters sent to some of these protests, and being able to track that down, to find out where that originated from, that's going to be very important, and that's going to be part of what I think the administration and what the federal government does to combat this.
In Washington, again, everybody's getting ready. We'll be voting in November. I know you're a big supporter of the president. What else is going on in Washington? I said, is there anything productive going on in Washington? Where's the talk about the infrastructure that was talked about before all this took place? That was something that both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, seem to agree on, but I still don't see anything taking place on infrastructure.
Well, it's hard for us to be doing anything when the Speaker won't let us go back and keeps us from going back to Washington, D.C., which is just a farce. And, the Senate is back. There's no reason why we in the House of Representatives should not be back up in Washington, D.C. We're not scheduled to go back until June 30th. We have been back for a couple of votes. I've been back 3 times, I think, since all this started. I had a committee meeting that I needed to go to. The Speaker and the Democrats have passed a proxy voting bill, which I have entered into a lawsuit along with the minority leader. He is leading that lawsuit, opposing that. There's no reason why we should have proxy voting. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 1st Congressional District and representing their vote. That voting card that has my picture on it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people of the 1st Congressional District, and I'm not going to give it to someone else. I'm not going to participate in proxy voting. I'm not going to participate in a markup in a committee through virtual hearings. Now, there have been virtual hearings where we hear from witnesses but don't take any actions, and I have participated, and I will participate in that, but not for a markup to send legislation to the House, nor for a vote on the House floor. But the Speaker needs to have us back in Washington, D.C. We've got healthcare workers who are risking their health. We've got truckers, we've got grocers, all of these essential services. There's no reason why we shouldn't be back up there. I mean, Congress has met through the Civil War, through the Spanish flu, but now we're not supposed to be back up there. The whole reason is the Speaker doesn't want us up there. She wants to do all this by herself, and she wants to, the majority party, the Democrats, just want to be able to craft the legislation, and it's not going to go anywhere, just like the HEROES Act that was passed in a very partisan way, with only one Republican voting for it. That is not going anywhere. Mitch McConnell has already said it's dead on arrival. It'll never become law.
One thing that people are curious about is during this COVID-19 pandemic, most Americans got their first stimulus check. There's discussion of a second stimulus check, and that seems to be a big contention point between Republicans and Democrats. Will they get one? Will they not get one? If they do, how much would it be? Who gets one? Your thoughts on all that? Where do you stand on the second stimulus check to people that may be hurting during this pandemic?
Well, let me be very clear that if we need more money for healthcare issues, that is for more testing, for vaccination or for medication that's going to cure this, then I'm going to seriously consider that. However, we've already spent $3 trillion. Let's see how it works first. Let's let it see what the impact of it is. Let it take hold, and then let's go back and review things. This HEROES Act that was passed in such partisan fashion called for another $3 trillion. And holy cow, that's a lot of money.
Now, we say all the time, nothing's for free. Do we eventually have to pay this back, or are we just going to see taxes go sky high, or how are they going to refund all the money that's been handed out? Is what
well, that's a good question. I mean, all of a sudden we've gone from $23 trillion in debt to $26 trillion in debt. And don't get me wrong, again, we needed that. And I voted for all 3.5 phases, and I would vote for them again if I had to. The stimulus is very important. The economic stimulus is very important to help small businesses to stay afloat. I get that and understand that. However, right now, let's get our economy back in order. We are hoping for a V-shaped rebound. We're hoping that we'll go back up just as quickly as we went down. But before we go spending another $3 trillion or even $1, let's see how this $3 trillion goes first. I'm curious, during the first phase, a lot of people said they got it. Other people said they didn't. Some businesses said that they get it. Were you getting bombarded with phone calls from people? How did that work out, and what were the main complaints you heard? Yeah, we did get a lot of calls, to be quite honest with you, and a lot of people were, where's my check? Where's my check? And for different reasons, people may have gotten it at different times, but for the most part, everyone has gotten it, and if they haven't, then I encourage them to please call our office. You can call our Savannah office at 912-352-0101 or our Brunswick office at 912-265-9010. And we'll be glad to assist you in that. There's also a website that you can go to find out, get my payment, and you can check on there, and it'll give you the status of where your check's at. And a lot of places that weren't supposed to get money got it. I know some businesses have sent it back. Are they fast checking that? Are they making sure all those people that got money that weren't supposed to get it, they're paying it back, or how's that working? Well, they are, and keep in mind now, whenever we did the CARES Act, we did it quickly. And we did it somewhat loosely, if you will. And the reason for that is that we wanted that money to get out there as quickly as it could. We knew that our economy needed it, and we knew that the people needed it. So that was the reason why it was a little more loose than it normally would have been. However, we did find that there were a lot of situations where companies, and we heard the stories of some of the big restaurant chains getting all this money, and then the president shamed them into giving it back. I think it's important to note there were two different cycles, two different tranches, as we refer to it as of money going out for the PPP, for the Paycheck Protection Program. In the first tranche, the average loan was right at $200,000. In the second tranche, the average loan was less than $100,000, which tells us that it was going where we wanted it to go. It was going to the small businesses, the mom and pop operations. So that's a good indication that we got a handle on it, and it is going where it should be going. The president thinks the economy can bounce back quickly. You have that same sentiment? I do too. I agree with him, and I don't think there would be anyone else better qualified than Donald Trump to make sure that we do that. Keep in mind that before all this happened, we had the strongest economy ever. We had the strongest economy that this world has ever known, and it was a result of the hard work of this administration, the hard work of Congress, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that we passed that created this economy. And I have all the faith in the world that this president can get us back to where we were at. And keep in mind, again, before all this started, we had the lowest unemployment rate for African-American males we've ever had. We had the lowest unemployment rate for Hispanics that we ever had. All of this under this administration. So there is no reason at all that we can't get back to that level. We've heard from day one China's responsible for this pandemic, that they had knowledge that they didn't release and let people know. The president's talked about that. People ask, what kind of repercussions is the United States going to take against China, if any? Where you stand on that? What could the United States do to make them pay for this pandemic crisis that they apparently brought to the United States? Well, they did, and this is the China virus. There's no question about it. China was not forthcoming with information when it initially happened. If they had been, it could have saved us tens of thousands of American lives. It could have saved us the impact that it's had on our economy. But China decided to try to cover this up with the assistance of the World Health Organization, who was complicit in helping China to cover this up. If you will remember, China told us that this was a virus that could not be transferred from human to human. It was only animal to human. Well, obviously we found out that this is one of the most contagious viruses that we've ever seen, and it is that way. They did not let us know how bad it was initially. I do applaud the president and his early intervention in what he did, because he did stop flights to travel to China and flights to China early on. That was very important. I've signed on to a bill that will require the Secretary of State as well as Health and Human Services to look into what China knew and to report back to Congress their findings on what China did and did not do. I've also sponsored legislation that will look into the World Health Organization and how they were complicit in helping China to cover this up. I applaud the president for cutting the funding to the World Health Organization. There's no reason why the United States of America should be sending over $400 million a year to that organization when they are obviously helping China and assisting China in covering these kind of things up. Did you know that the United States of America pays over $400 million in the World Health Organization, or we did, but China pays less than $40 million because they are classified as a developing nation. They got one of the strongest economies in the world, yet they're classified by the World Health Organization as a developing nation. It makes no sense whatsoever.
I told Danny Merritt, the sentiment out there among a lot of people is that all this COVID-19 now has become political. They want the economy to stay shut down because they think that's the only way they're going to defeat the president in November is to have a bad economy. Do you feel that same way?
I think there is some truth to that. I think there is, obviously, again, if we look at the pre-epidemic or the pre-pandemic and where we were at in our economy, we know how strong it was. Again, I'm very confident the president can get us back there, and more so than anyone else, certainly more so than Joe Biden, goodness gracious. But nevertheless, nothing surprises me anymore. I still get disappointed, but I'm never surprised by anything, and I wouldn't be surprised if that weren't the case, the ulterior motives of them trying to destroy our economy in order to get this president. Because I will tell you, I've never witnessed anything like it in my life. They hate the man. They do. Now, look, I didn't like Obama. I didn't like I respected him as president. He was my president. I served 2 years in Congress under him, but I didn't hate him.
What about all the, it just seems like the tweets just continue to, and the fact he gets criticized. They say that, over 100,000 people have died across the United States with this pandemic, and there's been they don't see him as a sympathetic figure that he's has. Your thoughts on that?
Well,
he gets criticized for that all the time. But
he's not
as sympathetic as people would expect him to be. With it is a health crisis. People are dying, so.
It's look. We know what Donald Trump brings to the table, and it doesn't surprise us anymore what he brings to the table. I have met the president numerous times. I've probably met him 10 or 12 times. Listen, he is a great guy, and he truly loves this country. And he truly wants to do the very best that he can for this country. Maybe he is rough around the edges, and yes, I would admit he is. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of people, including myself, who appreciate that. I mean, there are a lot of times when, you can sugarcoat something, but the truth is we just got to get down and grin and bear it and just work our way through this.
And Buddy Carter in the studio is with us, running for 1st Congressional District Congress. He is the incumbent. When you're out there campaigning, what's your message to the voters? Why should they vote again for Buddy Carter for another term?
Well, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished over the past 6 years. We've had funding for the Savannah Harbor expansion project, arguably the greatest economic development project since the interstate system. That's going to, we've got full funding for that. We should see the completion of that project, which is going to have a ripple effect all throughout the district. We continue to work on that. We continue to work on bringing jobs to the 1st Congressional District. We continue on working on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We need to make those tax cuts permanent. That's going to be extremely important. I'm very proud of our team and what we've done, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'd point to my experience, to my record as mayor of the city of Pooler, as 10 years in the Georgia State Legislature. I feel like I'm just getting started in this job, and I'm looking forward to it.
Your opponent, when he's out, he's telling people to ask the question, what's Buddy Carter done for you, what he's done for the 1st District? The first thing that came to mind was the help that you brought to the people in Odom when the tornado came through. But you probably know that answer better than I do, but just explain what you've done for the 1st District since you've been in Congress.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege. This is my home. This is where I've lived all my life, where I intend to live the rest of my life. And I take this job very seriously and work very hard, as you well know. And we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to meet the needs of the constituents of the 1st Congressional District. This is an honor and a privilege for me to serve and to give back to my country this way and to my community this way. So we're going to continue to work as hard as we can. As I say, I just feel like we're just getting started here and looking forward to what we can do for the 1st Congressional District in the future.
Where will you be Tuesday night?
Where will I be Tuesday night? I don't even know, to be quite honest with you. I do know where I will be next Wednesday afternoon. I have not seen my grandchildren in Charlottesville, Virginia for 2.5 months, so I'm finally going to get to see them next week, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I say it's a big, how about turnout? That's always a concern. I mean, it's frustrating. We talk about it all the time. People fought and died for the right for Americans to vote.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unfortunately, so many Americans don't take the time. And here in Wayne County, with one day, today being the final day of early voting, 3 weeks, we're less than 2,000. We have 16,000 registered voters on the docket. So, I mean, the turnout just doesn't seem to be. And we've got a sheriff's race here with 4 candidates on the Republican ballot. You think it would be a lot. I know a lot of absentee ballots have come in. There's a lot of concern about the absentee ballots. We've got our chief registrar and probate judge coming in Monday to talk about how they can start counting those ballots from absentee on Monday, because there's over 2,000 on hand. But still, percentage-wise, district-wide, nationwide, it's sad how few people take the time to go vote.
It is very sad, and when you think about it, one of the greatest freedoms that we have is the right to vote and to elect our officials. And, we owe it, if for no other reason, to our veterans who have given so much for our freedoms to get out and exercise that great freedom that they have fought for us and that we continue to enjoy. We should be able to at least honor them by getting out and voting.
Buddy, always good to see you. Like I said, you're always welcome anytime.
Like
I said, wish you the best of luck on Tuesday, and we'll see how it plays out. 3 Democrats on the Democratic side, so this race goes all the way to November.
It does.
Who do you think is going to win on the Democratic side? Who do you think that big opposition is coming from?
It would appear to be between Joyce Griggs and Lisa Ring, as far as we can tell. Barbara Seidman is from Waycross area, and she's run before, so it should be an interesting race.
Well, we'll follow it closely on Tuesday, and again, we'll have all the results for everybody Tuesday night. Again, we'll have the full election coverage. This will be your election headquarters on Tuesday, but hope to make contact with you Tuesday night as well. Absolutely. When the results come in. So, again, appreciate you being here today on the show, and we'll wish you the best of luck and see how it all plays out on Tuesday night.
Thank you very much.
Look it up. That's going to do it for today's world-famous Butch and Bob Show on a Friday. Have a great week.
Butch and Bob Show on WIFO, brought to you this morning by Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings, Murphy Builder Supply, and our new sponsor, First Southern Bank. Good morning from the Big Dog, WIFO at 8:31.
Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings restaurant in Jessup is now open for